This is the Google Pixel 5, Google's latest and greatest smartphone that costs $700 US. This is also a saturated market segment with plenty of fantastic options out there, some bigger and some smaller. How does the Pixel 5 stand out? Is it worth your money? Let's find out with a little review. Quick disclaimer, this Pixel 5 along with a few accessories for the Pixel were sent to me by the Google Pixel team. That being said, they don't get a say in what goes in this video, and they don't get to see what's in this video before it goes live. And if you're watching this in the first few days, you've probably seen it before they did. Aren't you special? Second disclaimer, for a brand new product like this, I try to avoid other YouTubers' review of this product because I don't want their opinions affecting mine. So this is my take before watching any of their videos. After we got all that administrative stuff out of the way, let's begin. The Pixel 5 comes in two different colors, black and Sorta Sage. Out of the box, you get a few different accessories. The phone itself, a USB Type-C charging cable, USB-C charging brick, a USB-A to USB-C adapter, recyclables, and a tiny little SIM card ejector tool. I honestly always end up losing these. For you big phone nerds out there, here are some quick specs for you that we won't discuss too much because, let's face it, 8GB of RAM isn't the most exciting spec to delve into. Now, let's discuss the physical details about the device. Well, the Pixel 5 has a picture frame-like border. What I mean by this is that, like a picture frame, the border is constantly the same size throughout all four sides of the phone. No massive chins, foreheads, or extra chubbiness on the sides, which makes this phone look super clean and minimalistic compared to some other devices, including the older Pixel phones. The back of the phone is aluminum, but it doesn't feel like aluminum. It's like the aluminum is wrapped with this textured layer. I don't know exactly what it is, but metal-backed phones can't wirelessly charge, and this phone can wirelessly charge itself. And other devices too. So assuming this isn't some sort of super secret Google magic, it's most likely plastic close to the wireless charging area and all over it, but the rest of the shell is aluminum, and the entire casing of the phone is wrapped in this plasticky layer with the shiny G Google logo on the bottom. It does feel more slip resistant than the plastic back of the Pixel 4a though. Just thought I'd point that out. And compared to the Pixel 4a and 4a 5G, it doesn't have the headphone jack. Oh, speaking of the Pixel 4a, can we rewind the video a bit? Let's go back. Remember this shot of the Pixel 5 and its accessories? Well, that was actually a Pixel 4a. Yeah, I did this to actually showcase this next part. It looks very similar to the Pixel 4a in overall design, and personally I think that's a good thing, and it really streamlines the entire design across the Pixel lineup. The difference is, the speaker and microphone cutouts are slightly different size, but both still look like a Snorlax. The Pixel 5 actually has its top speaker underneath the display, so it's not visible at all compared to the Pixel 4a. And the Pixel 5 display is just slightly bigger at 6 inches versus 5.8 inches, and it shows. It's barely larger than the Pixel 4a when placed side by side. It's honestly hard to tell which one is which unless they are right next to each other, just like this. I think the Pixel 5 fits just as nicely in the hand as the Pixel 4a, but just keep in mind that it is slightly bigger in the hand. This is a fun little fact. If you own both the Pixel 5 and Pixel 4a, then you can actually use the Pixel 5 case for the Pixel 4a. That's how similar in size they are. It's just, the cutouts will just be a little off. It's like the Pixel 5 is giving the Pixel 4a its hand-me-downs. Okay, so now let's talk about my experience using this device for the last 3 weeks. It felt smooth and simple. There was no stuttering and apps opened fast. That's what you should expect out of a higher-end smartphone in 2020. The only real performance hitch I ran into was this scenario. And by the way, this scenario actually occurred on the Pixel 4a as well because, well, spoiler alert, they have the same chip. When you take a picture and head straight to the gallery view to see the picture you just took right away, the phone takes a second to process the image. This is a very minor inconvenience, and most people won't be just snapping a picture and trying to analyze it on the spot. And even if they are, they can wait a second. Jeez, calm down. It's not life or death. It's just a phone. The Pixel 5 is also free of all the excess bloatware you get when you purchase a new device, and the fact that it runs stock Android makes it even better. I really do enjoy using this phone. It's a simple phone without some sort of the crazy gimmicky features out there on other phone brands and manufacturers. The dual speakers sound as good as you'd expect from a smartphone, but when you block the bottom one, the top display speaker does sound a bit tiny when isolated like this. It almost made me forget that there was a top speaker at all, to be honest with you. Okay, now let's talk about performance. The Pixel 5 is utilizing a Snapdragon 765G. This is the same chip that's in the Pixel 4a and Pixel 4a 5G, and it does the job. It's not the highest end chip. This is actually a mid-range chip. I know what you're thinking. Why did Google not go with the higher end 865? Well, I think it's for two different reasons. Number one, the 765G is a cheaper chip, so it costs less to put it in their phones. And number two, the 765G consumes less power. Hear me out here. I think Google is taking a different approach with this device versus some other 5G smartphones in this category. This phone has a huge battery for such a tiny device, 4080 milliamp hours, and combined with a more power efficient chip, lets the battery life be absolutely amazing. Assuming you're a light or medium user and not some sort of pro mobile gamer, you can get a day and a half out of this thing. And with people waiting longer and longer to upgrade their phones over the last few years, and combined with the fact that batteries degrade over time, which is completely inevitable, it will happen, this definitely helps mitigate having like terrible battery 2 years in if you're someone who plans to keep their phone for a while. It won't 100% prevent it, but your battery will be better off than someone who had a smaller battery or a much more power consuming chip. The Snapdragon 765G isn't going to give you the highest settings in your games, but it's good enough to pretty much play any game that you have within reason. For example, here we have Genshin Impact, a game I noticed was pretty popular right now, and one that I am awful at, by the way, and the Google Pixel 5 runs this game smoothly at 30 frames per second on medium. Then there's also Pixel-only features that other phones can't compete with. Call screening to minimize all those pesky scam calls, and even a feature called Wait For Me, which is a new feature that basically puts your phone staying on hold for you while you do other things and notifying you when someone comes back. Now let's take a look at the cameras. First, I want to point out something I love about the Pixel cameras. The UI. It's fantastic. Everything is easy to read and find, and I said this in my 4a review, I love the fact that when you tap on an object, the camera tracks and focuses on the item you clicked on. It's something I love on my Sony mirrorless cameras and is a welcomed feature here. There's also 2 camera sensors on the back, an ultra-wide and a wide-angle lens. But on the camera UI, there's also a 2x button, which is just a digital zoom of the wide-angle lens. As for the camera themselves, let's do some comparisons with the only devices I currently own, a Google Pixel 4a and an iPhone XS Max. Not the greatest comparison, but the Pixel 5 should outshine these, right? Also, just so you know, I don't plan to go into how the camera performs extensively. There are better reviews for that elsewhere, and I do an awful job talking about camera quality. There's so much better people who can do that. I'm just being honest with you. Go watch them. Based on the phones that I have and that I can compare it to, I think the Pixel 5 does fantastic. I used night sight the majority of the time because I found it took the best pictures from the Pixel. The Pixel 5 and 4a do really well with dynamic range. The details in high contrast areas like a bright laptop screen and the darkness behind the storage unit. This also applies to selfies. It takes this ugly face and enhances its ugliness. Someone really needed to shave that day. The light shining through the window was harsh and the Pixel handled it fantastically. Apparently the Pixel line is using an older camera sensor compared to phones from other manufacturers, so it's absolutely crazy that the camera and processing is best in class. Okay, so before we get to the conclusion, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. The price tag of this phone. It's $700. Now I know what you're thinking. Jimmy, what are you going on about? Lots of companies sell their phones at that price. And you're absolutely correct. The big difference between this phone and those other ones are on the spec sheet. Across the board, this thing has some deficiencies when compared to some of their Android competitors. To name one, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. But what it lacks in specs, it has in ease of use. Other than the Pixel 4a, I can't remember the last time I had such an enjoyable Android user experience, but I really enjoyed using the Pixel 5 more than any other one. It's a good phone, and I had no trouble trying to do anything on it. And the Pixel lineup has a benefit most other Android devices actually suffer in. Software updates usually come to the Pixel lineup first because, well, it's Google. And Google promises 3 years of software updates, and since it's the Pixel line, it will be receiving the updates very fast. So in conclusion, what do I think about the Google Pixel 5? Well, first, I want to say I think this is a fantastic phone. There's plenty of things to like about it, from its ease of use, Pixel-exclusive features, and well-rounded specs. It's hard to find flaws. But this is a $700 smartphone, and with that price, that's when you can start being a little bit nitpicky. This is currently, and honestly, Google's flagship phone. And what I mean by that is that it has the fanciest bells and whistles out of all the Pixel lineup. And for the most part, flagship phones are typically not value picks. It's because they incorporate some higher end tech or utilize technologies like wireless charging or water resistance that add a lot of cost to a phone. That being said, that makes this Google Pixel 5 Google's flagship Pixel. It has all those nicer quality of life features that you just don't find on the Pixel 4a and 4a 5G. The Pixel 4a is a fantastic value at $350, and the Pixel 4a 5G is also a fantastic value at $500. The Pixel 5 is not that fantastic value phone. It just isn't. It's a very, very good phone, and it's the best Pixel, but also the most expensive. Google set a really high bar with the 4a and 4a 5G with how great of a value those devices are, that if I were to honestly recommend you a Pixel device, it would probably be the Pixel 4a 5G. But maybe you don't want it for just value. Maybe you want the best Pixel. If you want the best the Pixel line has to offer with all the nice extra quality of life features like a high refresh rate display, water resistance, and two-way wireless charging, the Pixel 5 stands out through simplicity in everything it does. It has a minimalistic look, simplistic UI, minimal gimmicks, fantastic support, and a great feature set. You wouldn't be buying this phone to have a million different features some marketing department hyped you on. You'll buy this phone because it's a pleasure to use and meets all of your common needs. I really, really like this phone. But if I were to have just one gripe, one little gripe, I think I wish it was just $600. But you can't put a price on fantastic user experience. I definitely look at the Pixel 5 if user experience and simplicity is what you aim for in a smartphone and the specs don't turn you away, because it's simply fantastic. Anyway guys, what do you think? Is the Pixel 5 on your radar? Are there other phones you prefer at this price range? Do you already own a Pixel phone? Or are you upgrading to this or any other Pixel? Or if you're not going for a Pixel, what are you upgrading to? Are you upgrading at all? If not, doesn't matter. Leave all that down and any other thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and, well, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.